Hi everyone, welcome to the revision class for ABRSM Grade 3 Rudimental Music. And so what we're going to be doing today is basically a revision. As you prepare for the exam, it's important that I will just quickly run through all the topics that we've covered during the sections we had in the months preceding now. So please note that I'm not going to be looking at each of the topics in total. I'm not going to be looking at them holistically. If you need more deeper insights into any of the topics, the recordings of the classes we've had previously are available. Please visit them and deepen your understanding in each of the topics, and then before you return back to this revision. So it's a revision. I'll just be summarizing most of what we've done. So let's start. The first topic we looked at is compound time signature. Compound time signature. This is the first time we're introducing compound time signature. And it's very important for you to know the difference between simple time signature and compound time signature. Is that the simple time signature divides each bit into two equal parts. So if you have something like this, for example, in the simple time signature as your dominant bit or the main bit, this is simple time signature because you can divide this into two equal parts, into two equal bits, halves. But on the other hand, the compound time signature, in the compound time signature, the dominant bit or the standard bits can be subdivided into three equal bits. And for you to do that, because there is no single bit that can be divided into three equal bits, you need to introduce what we call a dot. So the standard bit in compound time signature is normally a dotted bit. For example, let's say a dotted crochet in this case. So this can be divided into three quavers because you know the dot has the value of the note it is dotting. So this is simple time and this is compound time. So in compound time signature, we normally use the dotted bit as the standard bit, like we said. So, for example, if you could even have the same set of notes, but because of the way they are divided, you could easily say, okay, this is simple time and this is compound time. So, if I give you an example, let's say you have 3, 4. That's 3 crochets in a bar. So that means you have, let's say you have something like this, right? Let's group this together. Group this together. Group this together. So you can see here that this is 3 crochets in a bar because this is what? This is crochet 1, crochet 2, crochet 3. So 3 crochets in a bar. And because each of these notes, you see, they are divided into 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That makes it simple time. But I can rearrange these notes. Okay, I can rearrange these notes to give me a compound time signature. So let's assume, instead of dividing these both into 2, I divide it into 3. I group them in 3s. So I make this, for example, I make this, so you have this here now, just the same notes, so same set of notes with this, and then start here again. So instead of dividing it into 2, I divide it into 3. It's no longer, that's why they have the same number of quavers as it stands, but the time signature has changed now to compound time. And what is the compound time for this? It's 6/8, because you can count 6 quavers in this bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But how do you call this? You don't say 6 quiver beats. The standard beat is what forms a dotted note. So this is the standard beat here. So what gives us this? How can we put this note into one in a coin, into one cup? We say this is a dotted crochet. So if you want to pronounce this kind of, yes, in time signature you write 6, but when you are pronouncing it, you say 2 dotted crochet beats in that. That is 2 dotted crochet beats. So it means the standard note is the dotted crochet, because dotted crochet divides into 3 equal quavers. That gives us, that makes it. So you see the difference between simple time and compound time. Simple time divides into 2 equal halves, compound time divides. So it means you can have a piece of music and either make it simple or make it compound, depending on how you subdivide the notes. So please, let's note that. So I will stop here, but just note that in your examinations, you are going to be examining on 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8. So these are there are other compound times, all right, just like there are other simple time. So these are the 3 you start with for your grade 3. This is just what we have done now. This is 2 dotted crochet beads. Do 2 dotted crochet beads in a bar. This is 3 dotted crochet beads in a bar, and this is 4 dotted crochet beads in a bar. So that's very important for us to note. Yeah. So the other thing I just want to also mention before we end this part of the revision is you can change, just like we've done here, just like in the example here. You can change, you can be given a simple time, a song in a simple time, and then ask to convert that song to a compound time. What you need to do in converting it to a compound time is to see where you can add dots. For example, if I have this notes, for example, just pardon me, let me do it here. Just if I have this notes, so this is 4/4, and then I'm giving this song, and I'm asked to change it to a compound time. What I just need to do is to rewrite this note, and then just add the dots here, add the dots here, add the dots here, add the dots here. So this is now 4 dotted crochets, no longer 4 crochets, 4 dotted crochet beads in the bar. So I've added dots. So when you can add dots, you add dots to make it compound time. So this is 4 dotted crochet, and what will be the time signature here? It will be 12/8, because 4 dotted crochet will give you 12 quavers in the bar. In fact, how to do it is just multiply the upper part by 3 and multiply the lower part by 2. You get what the compound time equivalent of a simple time signature will be. If you multiply the upper part of the simple time signature by 3 and multiply the lower, the denominator of the simple time signature by 2, you get the equivalent compound time signature. So 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 2 is 8. So when after you have dotted the necessary notes to make sure that each of these notes that naturally divided into 2 can now divide into 3, so smaller notes, then you have made it compound time signature, and then the new time signature will now be 12/8. And also you can be giving a compound time signature, right? So let's say, for example, this is what you are giving. You are giving a note like this. This is originally what you've been giving, and this is the time signature is 12/8, and you have to change this to simple time. You just look for where the dots are and rewrite the music without the dots. Okay? Please only do it with dots. Don't go and remove a note. If you have a note and then that has a music attached to it, like a syllable, like a sound attached to it. You don't want to just erase that note because you want to make it simple, to compound time or simple time. No, only work with dots, where you have dots, or where you can have dots. So if I remove this dot now, remove this dot, remove this dot, remove this dot. So I've made this note to now lose the third component. So these notes now are in simple time because each of these notes can be further divided into just two smaller equal units. And what will be the time signature, the new time signature? Divide this by 3, divide this by 2 to get the simple time equivalent, which will give you 4/4. So note that in an exam, you can be asked, given a sum in a simple time extract, asked to rewrite it and make it compound time. Think of where you need to change the notes that are naturally divided into 2 into 3 parts by using your dots. That does not apply to a triplet. Where you have a triplet, for example, triplets, let's say you have a triplet, this is a triplet, right? In simple time, you use simple time in triplet. So triplet is, we've studied triplets in grade 2. Let's say 4/4 and you have this triplet. Yes, it's 4/4, but this note is still in the time of 2. But you are singing 3 notes in the time of 2. So it still falls within simple time. For you to make it compound time, you just take away the triplets and let the 3 notes stand on their own. They become compound time. Okay, so when you also have 3 notes like that, and you feel that, oh, there's no, and I have these 3 notes as compound time, how can I make it simple time? I can't just add dots, because if I add dots, maybe I'm going to overshoot the number of notes I should have on the bar. Then I can add a triplet, if that will make sense. If I'm taking it back to the simple time, I can add a triplet so that, with the triplet, I can be able to make it simple time and still retain the number of notes without going over the total number of notes that should be on the bar. So there are different ways to work around it. You just need to think carefully about each question as they come, as they could have different demands. Okay, so that's the end about our revision for compound time signature. There are no questions, we'll move on. So the next topic we're going to consider is grouping of notes. Now, grouping of notes are just rules. They are rule-based. You have to know the rules that govern grouping of notes, and that's why we've been looking at grouping of notes from grade 1 to grade 2, because you have a lot of different dimensions of notes, and you have to know how to group each of these notes as they occur in music. For the purpose of this grade, we are only going to be considering grouping of notes, compound time signature, that deals with the compound time signature we just considered, 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8. Like I said, I'm not reteaching this class because it has been taught extensively in our weekly rhythm of music classes. So if you think you need to reinforce your understanding of the subject, please kindly refer to the recordings that are available online. But just by way of summary, the first thing I just want you to know is that when you have try to reduce the use of ties. If you have 2 notes that are tied together, you can make them as a single note without destroying the structure of the compound time, then that is good. That is good. What does that mean? That means that if you have, for example, in the end of this compound time, let's say you have these notes. Okay, the dotted, these are 2 dotted crochets joined with a tie, right? This dotted crochet, the dots shows that it's compound time. I can decide to remove this and just give you something like this. It saves space, and it also makes it more readable, as well as it doesn't destroy my compound time structure because my dot is still there. Okay, so that's what they are. So anytime you have 2 full beats, because remember each of these the main bits in each of these, time signature is not a quiver bit, rather is a dotted crochet. Please, let's not forget that. Yes, you may see 8 here, but the main bit is a dotted crochet. So when you have, for each of these time signature, when you have 2 dotted crochets like this, you can just make it a dotted meaning. So please let's note that. So anytime you have, even if you have, let's say for example, in 9/8, you have this, you have this, you have this. Instead of having 4 dotted crochets like this, these are full beats, right? You can change these 2 to this. And reduce, the less we can make the notes, the better. Okay, so at the end of the day, we can end up having this and then this. And we now have this instead of having this. So whether you have 3 full beats or 2 full beats, if you have 3 full beats, then the first 2 full beats, which is the first 2 dotted crochets, make them a dotted beat, then tie it to the third dotted beat. However, if it is in this case now, let's assume in this case of 12/8, if you have a 4, so let's say this is 12/8, right? And then I have another one, so you now have 4 full beats. 4 full beats. What do you think you're going to do? Some people will say change the first 2 beats to dotted meaning, and then also change the last 2 beats to dotted meaning. So you have 2 dotted meaning, but that's not actually correct. Since you have 1, 2, 3, 4 full beats, you can just have a dotted semi-brief. A dotted semi-brief. Think about if you have 4, 4, and you have 4 crochets in simple time signature. In grouping of notes, you can replace those 4 crochets with a semi-brief. So the equivalent in a compound time signature where you have 4 dotted crochets, that's 12/8, 4 dotted crochets, you can replace all of them with a dotted semi-brief. So another thing, remember we said that this grouping of notes are all rule-based, they are based on rules. Another thing I want to just quickly mention is that avoid ties within a note, or within a group of notes, or within a beat. So what that means is that within a beat, avoid ties as much as possible. Let me explain that. Let me just rub off this. Don't mind. So let's assume you have something like this. So let's say 6/8, right? So you have something like this, and that's 3 dotted crochet now. So let's say this is 1 crochet, that's 1 beat. Then you have another dotted crochet, which is 1 beat. Then here you now have this, and they are all on the same. So you now have this, right? Now, so let's group this together. So this is not, of course, these 2. First of all, we make these 2 dotted meaning. But now, let's assume you say you want to tie this. We don't tie this. Instead of tying these 2 notes, because they are singing the same thing, instead of tying these 2 notes, you can write it separately as a crochet and then keep the other one as a quiver. It still shows, these 2 still tells me that this is half of, so this makes a beat. These 2 notes here make a beat as a dotted crochet. So instead of avoid ties within a beat, so this also makes a beat. But already, because we are doing a tie within this 1 beat, if we can avoid it by making those 2 notes a single note and keeping the last part of the beat so that it still forms a compound structure, that is much preferable. I hope that is clear. If you have something like this, yes, I said you shouldn't use ties, right? Don't use ties. But when you have something like this, this is 6/8, but it doesn't show it's even compound time. It shows a simple time because each of these can be divided into 2. There is no 3. So what can you do here?
What you can do here is that these notes, you can break it into two so that you can bring out some dotted something from it. Does it make sense? So in that case, what if I do something like this? Okay? If I do something like this, do you see what I've done now? Who can tell me what I've done here? What I've done here is very simple. This is what I've done. These two notes is equal to these notes. Do you get it? These two notes is equal to this note, but I will now use tie. I have to use tie there now to show that this is just one note. You see now I've been able to, so in my grouping now, I can now group these together. So I group these three together. See there are three now, but this one is connected to this to show that this is the original note. But if you have this, and they ask you, just make this, then you have to find a way to bring out something and make this a dotted crochet, then you're able to. But make sure that you are showing that if you don't tie this, then you have destroyed this note completely because you have reduced it to this, but we shouldn't reduce it to this. The two notes should still give you this, so that's why we had a tie. And then now we are still able to get three equal parts on this side to give us the beaming that we need. Does that make sense? Okay. Then the last thing I want to talk about is grouping of rests, which is just basically in grouping of rests, if you have a silent beat rest, so let's assume, this is a beat, right? So let's assume this beat is a rest. Everything here is rest. That's a beat, a silent beat rest. You don't need to be adding this. No, just use a dotted crochet rest, okay, to represent a silent beat rest. So whatever the value of that beat is, if it is dotted crochet or dotted meaning, put the beat there. Don't start dividing the beat into smaller pieces. Of course, if it is a full bar rest, regardless of whether it is 6, 8, 12, 8, whatever it is, what should you use? You use a what? Remember this, a semi-brief rest. If it's a full bar, nothing is there, just an empty space, then you use a semi-brief rest. Please, let's note that. So, good. So your rest should complete a beat. Your rest should complete a beat. Let me clean up this and see if I can. Your rest should complete a beat before moving on. So if there is a note already there, but that note doesn't complete the beat, then you need to use the rest to complete the beat. Of course, let me give you just one example. So, let's say you have 6, 8, for example, okay? And then you have this. Let's say you have 6, 8, for example, and then you have this. This is a dotted crochet rest, right? Then you have this, and then you have this. Then you have this. Okay? Good. Now you could see that if you do this, let's say this, and then you put this, which one do you think is correct, this or this? Because this is also 6, 8 now. No, this is where crochet rest. So you have crochet rest, crochet notes, dotted crochet rest, quaver rest, and this.
The up one is compound and the down one is simple.
Very clear, because this is simple. You are two. You can divide this into two, into two, into two. Simple. But this, and you see, this is 2 dotted crochet beads, right? So you see already this is 1 bead, and you are using this rest to do what? To complete this bead. So this is another bead. So it's very important that when you are thinking about grouping your notes or grouping your rest, you ensure that each rest completes the beat. Okay, quickly we want to touch on demi-semi-quavers. Do you have any question on this, please? Any question? Are you sure? All right. Demi-semi-quavers. Of course, you've done your semi-brief, your minim, your crochet, your quavers. Now we're introducing the demi-semi-quavers, or what you call the 30-second notes. The 30-second notes. It is this with 3 hooks, okay? We know that it's with 3 hooks. In terms of the beaming for semi-demi-quaver is very, you still need to beam according. So let's say you have 6/8, for example, okay? Let's say, and you have all semi-quavers. How many semi-quavers? Remember, our is two dotted crochets. How many semi-quaver we make a dotted crochet?
6.
Huh?
6.
A dotted crochet.
Sorry, 12.
A dotted crochet. How many semi-quaver we make 1 dotted crochet as the beat? How many semi-quavers we? How many? 6. 6. It's because if you have, this is a dotted crochet, this is a quiver, a quiver, a quiver. All right? 3 quavers. And then if you divide them, 3 semi-quavers. Oh, sorry. It should be 12. It should be 12. It should be 12. It should be 12. Yes, it should be 12. It should be 12. Yeah, it's 12. Yeah, 12. Oh, yeah. So this is this. Yeah, it should be 12. Sorry. It should be 12. Yeah. But now, that's 12, right? Are you going to put the beam on all the 12? That's the question. Are you going to beam all the 12? Okay. Now, for the semi-quavers, it's not advisable to beam all the 12. Beam according to, beam according to the root notes, each of the root notes. So what I mean is this. If this is the standard note for this, right? Dotted crochet, right? But what is the root note? The root note is that division. What gives you, which is a quiver? The root note is a quiver. Because it will give you 3 quavers. So beam according to the value of a quiver. You understand? That will give you how many quavers? Demi-semi-quavers now. 4 demi-semi-quavers. So you bring 4 demi-semi-quaver. So each of the 4 demi-semi-quaver represents a quiver, a quiver, a quiver. Does that make sense? So because demi-semi-quaver, you can't just beam 12 because you are trying to. So that's the difference there. So please just note that about demi-semi-quavers. And of course, there are more complicated demi-semi-quavers. But all the same, it's the same thing with what we've done so far, that you need to understand if you have rest, your rest must always complement your notes. They are very, very important. Okay? So that is all about demi-semi-quavers and grouping of notes. Leisure lines. Well, I believe we've done leisure lines. I'm not going to belabor that. Extension above a stave, right? So let's say you have something like this. Let's use the soprano stave, for example, the treble clef. You know what this note is. So let's say you have 2 leisure lines here, 2 leisure lines here. So what are the names of this? So if this is every good boy deserves favor, this is F, then you know this is G, this is A, this is B, this is C, right? And then if this is E, then you know this is D, and then if C, B, and then A, right? So you know that. Now, one other thing that I want you to know, is sometimes you have ledger lines that are too kind of hop. So let's say you have this, let me draw this complete now. Okay. All right, thank you. So let's say you have this now. Okay. So what's the note here? What's this note? F. Good. All right. Now you have a ledger line here. You have another note here. This is F, G, A, B, C, C, then D, then this is another F, right? No, sorry. The next F should be. So this is F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Then this is F, right? So you see that this F is an octave of this, right? This F is an octave of this. Now, if I ask you, if I put a note for you here and ask you to play it, you may struggle to start counting. You may struggle. So if there are notes that you're supposed to play and maybe that continue, we can write the note for you and just simply say, put this sign, which means play it an octave higher. You understand? Octave higher. Or if it is something that is down here, we can put it here for you and tell you, play whatever you should play here an octave lower. Okay? So that is one way of writing above ledger lines, extending the stave. You can extend the stave by using the octave sign. Does that make sense? You can extend the stave by using the octave sign. Any question? Good. Now, the next thing we want to go through is, I'll still leave this. Let's look at clef transposition. I know you did that. Clef transposition. And it also relates to, transposition simply means writing. It simply means writing a note below or above its octave. Okay? Below or above its octave. If I give you something like this, I know you've done all these things before, but just for the sake of argument, let's say you have just these 4 notes, for example. You have these 4 notes. Okay, you have these 4 notes, and then you're asked to transpose it an octave lower. To transpose it an octave lower. What you just simply need to do is play it on the 8th, count 8 to the 8th note. Now, of course, if this could have, let's say this is this, all right? And this is this. So this is, if you are transposing, you must retain the sharps and the flats. So now we want to transpose these notes. What is this letter? D. D sharp. So this is the next D lower, right? We want to transpose it lower. Do you understand? So I am rewriting this. But you have to do it on a new stave. Then this is what? E, which is this now. This is what? This is F. And this is what? E flat. I've transposed it now an octave lower. Do you see it? That's octave lower. But I can ask you to now, you can be asked, no, don't just transpose it an octave lower. Transpose it an octave lower and put it on the bass clef. All right? Transpose it an octave lower and put it what? On the bass clef. Now, what do you do to put it on the bass clef? You just assume that you can draw your bass clef under here. All right? Assume you can draw your bass clef. I hope I'll be able to get some space here, but it's all right. I should be able to. Okay. So this is the bass clef now. Okay. So it means that this D, where is this D on the bass clef?
I want to put middle C.
Yeah, but you can't just put middle C arbitrarily if there is no note. So the C, it comes, this is middle C. This one comes here, right?
Yeah.
You put, it's the same, okay? This one is the next E, the next, right? And this one is 2 ledger lines above. And this one is what? This one. Remember to put your, so do you see now? Do you understand the point now? You can be giving something, so this note, if you play this on the bass clef, it is the same sound pitch you are going to get for all this note on the soprano clef. You can also be given a note on the bass clef, and then you'll be asked to transpose it up and take it to the treble clef. You can transpose it first on the bass clef to know where it is, and then do the treble clef and just use that same middle C and get where it's going to be on the soprano clef. So you are not transposing, you have already transposed. So whatever you see on the soprano clef has been transposed from the bass clef. In this case now, whatever we see on this bass clef, this is the original note here. This is the original pitch. But now, this is our new pitch on the bass clef, which has been transposed an octave lower. Do you understand that? Do you get that? Any question? Okay.
And how do you tell the difference between if it's meant to be higher or lower?
Pardon?
How do you tell if it's meant to be higher or
They will tell you in the exam.
lower?
They will tell you transpose upper or transpose lower. If they say transpose lower, like this is transpose lower, right? You count it down to the next letter. If they say transpose higher, then you go up. Do you understand?
This
2 octave, and then another octave. Okay, so you can, then you still go down again, then you'll be somewhere here. You understand? If they say 2 octave lower, then you'll be somewhere here. You understand my point? Aha, because now you are coming from here to this point. So you have to just follow the question. Does that make sense?
Thank you.